After visiting Guanajuato, Mexico for about a week, I made my way over to San Miguel de Allende, where I met up with an American expat who rented out motorcycles. I was going to have the motorcycle for 8 days. I didn't really have an agenda, I didn't have an itinerary, I didn't know where I was going, and I didn't know where I was going to spend the night. But I had a general concept, and I was thrilled to go on this adventure. So off I go. I'm in my 70s, I'm traveling solo, I speak barely any Spanish, and I am off on a trip on a motorcycle in central Mexico. Did I learn anything? Absolutely, I learned quite a bit. If you'd like to see what I learned, come on with me on this trip and stick around for the video. During the last year, I went on 2 unassisted solo motorcycle rides in Mexico to the Sierra Gorda Mountains in central Mexico and to the Yucatán Peninsula in southern Mexico. On my 8-day trip through the Sierra Gorda, I rode a BMW G650 GS adventure motorcycle. And on my 11-day trip through the Yucatán Peninsula, I rode a classic Royal Enfield Himalayan adventure motorcycle. Here are the lessons I learned on my 2 adventure ride trips in Mexico. All right, another little pueblo. There's its church. A little bit of pavement as I go through it, and of course a speed bump. There it is. And here's another one as I leave, and then back off the tarmac again. Here we go. It didn't take me long to discover Mexico's famous topes, or as we call them in the United States, speed bumps. Topes are everywhere in Mexico. You'll find them at the entrance to a pueblo and at the exit and in between. And you'll find them in cities and in rural areas as well. I learned to be very alert for topes, or groups of topes known as zona de topes. The topes are not always marked. Sometimes there's a sign letting you know there's a tope ahead. Sometimes the sign is right on the tope, and sometimes there's no sign at all. Topes are known as Mexican speed cops. I hit a few topes going full speed a few times, and one time I completely went airborne like Evel Knievel. After a couple days of bottoming out the front forks on the motorcycle, I learned to ride over at a much slower pace and keep my eye ever vigilant for zona de topes. Another speed bump or zona de topes. Most motorcycles in Mexico are small, less than 200 cc's. It's rare to see a larger bike like the one I was riding, the BMW G650 GS, and it is extremely rare to see a large American bike like a Harley Davidson. Like many Americans, I ride my motorcycle for fun. Many Mexicans, though, use their motorcycle as a utilitarian vehicle to carry goods around or to get themselves from point A to point B. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the American motorcycle wave. I like to keep both hands on the handlebars. However, if a motorcyclist waves at me, I will wave back. In 8 days of riding, I noticed that Mexican motorcyclists don't wave. I didn't initiate the wave, and they didn't initiate a wave either. I only got waved at one time, and that was when a group of American adventure motorcyclists came around the corner and gave me the traditional American wave. So what lesson did I learn? The lesson I learned is don't wave. It's not part of the Mexican culture, and you're likely not to get a wave back. I'm on this main highway back to San Miguel, and it is a very dangerous road. I'm not enjoying this at all. In Mexico, people they'll just pass. It doesn't matter if there's no room or not. And I was advised to ride to the right, which is a good thing, because they'll just come up and somebody will pass. Oops. Yep, see what I mean? Bump too. Somebody will pass this way, and if you're riding in the middle, they're going to hit you. So you need to be riding on the right. And watch out, because the rules of the road are much different here. Yes, the rules of the road in Mexico are different than the rules of the road from the United States where I live. Fortunately, when I picked up my rental motorcycle, I was given a little bit of instruction on the Mexican rules of the road. Rules of the roads are customs. They're not written laws or regulations. For example, I was told to ride to the right side of the lane and give vehicles plenty of room to pass me, both coming and going, as they'll use half of both lanes. Of course, I was warned about the topes and also told that vehicles will pass even on a blind curve, double yellow. It doesn't matter. They may try to get by you, so move over and let them go. Another odd custom is the use of blinkers. The vehicle in front may be blinking left, which to me means they're going to make a left-hand turn, but oftentimes that means it's okay for me to pass them on the left. So what lesson did I learn? I learned that I needed to be extra vigilant when riding a motorcycle in Mexico. I had to anticipate what other drivers were doing, maybe what they were even thinking, and ride defensively to get out of the way of other vehicles. There's something that looks like a cow in the road. There's more than one, so there was a sign back there that said use caution. I can see why. Don't want to hit one of these guys, sorry buddy. And it looks like the forest is growing in on the road, so it gets real narrow. Here's a truck and I gotta pull off to the side. All right, it's enough for like 1.5 vehicles, I think. And of course, street dogs right in the street where they usually are. And that's why they sometimes get run over. Pretty slow. And even so, I'm still, I can't avoid them all. There's so many of them. Made it to civilization. Right at dark. Kind of what I thought it would be. And of course, Mexico has its topes, but Mexico also has similar hazards. Wildlife, domestic animals, dogs, potholes, mostly unmarked, are all hazards that you want to avoid when riding a motorcycle. So what lesson did I learn? Like topes, I learned to be alert and ever vigilant for road hazards, especially animals and potholes. I also learned not to ride at night. There are too many road dangers to ride at night safely. Okay, the main thing is I've got secure indoor parking here. So, and then my room is upstairs here somewhere. So that'll be okay for the night. That's the main thing, is trying to find a secure place for the motorcycle. I didn't really want to park it out on the street. It's not mine. I don't want anything to happen to it. The owners of the motorcycles that I rented requested that I park the motorcycles indoors or in a secure parking lot wherever I stayed in a hotel. Now, I did have a couple of items taken from my motorcycle on my trips. One was a pair of sandals and a hat that I had loosely tied to my motorcycle when I went off to lunch. And when I came back, those items were gone. So I knew that a motorcycle, especially a large adventure motorcycle, could be at risk if parked outdoors and exposed overnight. What lesson did I learn? I learned to keep the motorcycle within sight of myself, whether I'm eating lunch or walking around, especially if I have my luggage on the motorcycle. I also learned to use apps like Booking.com to find a hotel in my price range that had secured parking included in the hotel. All right, I found a hotel which looks like it's going to be okay because they have parking, estacionamiento. A lot of these hotels I checked just have outdoor parking like what you see here, and I'd rather have indoor. Well, that was a bit nerve-wracking. I was on the empty light. The BMW, the G650 GS, only has an idiot light. It doesn't have a gas gauge, and so when the light came on, I don't know how many kilometers I've got to go until it's empty, but I did over 20, and I came into Penal de Amales again, and usually there's a gas station when you come in, and there was no gas station, and I asked somebody in town if there's any gas here, and he said no. I think he meant, is there any gas here where I was talking to him? So, and it didn't show any gas stations on Google Maps either. I thought, I'm screwed. And but I asked somebody else, and they said, it's about a kilometer or two out of town, which I found here. So, whew, now I've got fuel I can go on. I did not want to run out of the gas here. Well, I haven't seen any signs or any Pueblos or any people for a little bit. I sure hope I'm on the right road, because I'm also down to a little over a quarter a tank of gas. And that's going to become an issue here in a bit if I don't find some place that's more settled than where I'm riding through right now. ¿No gasolina there?
Aquí hay otros niños, pero usted sí, para que yo te enseñe a dónde. Te vas, cruzas una calle.
There are few gas stations in rural areas outside of cities in Mexico. I knew this before taking my trips, but I still managed to almost run out of gas twice. I use Google Maps for directions, and Google Maps does not always list all the gas stations in Mexico where I travel. So I almost ran out of gas on both my trip in the Sierra Gorda and my trip in the Yucatán Peninsula. What lesson did I learn? First, I was unfamiliar with the reserve tank distance. I managed to get into the reserve tank on both trips in the BMW G650 GS and also in the Royal Enfield Himalayan. Second, I was unable to locate gas stations because they weren't on Google Maps. And third, I underestimated the distance between gas stations in the rural areas of Mexico. Well, that was not fun. I went into a Cajero Automático, which is an ATM, and it's sitting right behind me here. And my card got stuck in the ATM machine. I couldn't get it out. So I had to go back over to the bank here, and no one in there speaks English, so I had to struggle translating, and my card is stuck. They had to go in the back and get it back out of there. So that machine just ate my card. I always bring 2 ATM cards though, so I'm good. And I got the card back. I'm sitting in the bank. I've been here about an hour and 15 minutes. And I'm not sure why it takes them so long to get my card. I spoke to about 3 people, and the last one was the director of the bank. So maybe here he comes now. All right, good news. There's one other bank in town here. It's this one here right on the main drag, and I went in there and used my card on their ATM, Cajero, and it worked. Yes, I got my card back, so I've got some cash. I'm good to go. Well, I'm in my 3rd ATM trying to get some cash this afternoon, which is somewhat typical in Mexico. The first 2 I tried didn't take my card. They didn't like it at all. I couldn't. The second one actually was all in Spanish. Sometimes they will prompt you in English, which is what I look for, which really helps. And all of them have a different fee that they charge and a conversion rate, and you just kind of have to go with the flow on this if you really want money. And I'm heading out tomorrow, and I need cash. A lot of the hotels I'm staying at in the last 4 nights would only take cash. So, you know, I got a little extra this time since I am hitting on the road. Well, after breakfast, I realized I was running out of money, and I'm going to be going to a very remote area here tonight out on the Caribbean coast. So I wanted to find an ATM, and that's can be a challenge here in Mexico traveling. And it was no different today. It's Bacalar is not very big, and so I asked around. There's really only one ATM station. There were 5 ATM machines, 4 of them were out of money, so there's only one working in a line there. And so I was able to get up to it. It's all entirely in Spanish. Sometimes they're Spanish with English subtitles, but this one was all Spanish. And I was able to get 3,000 pesos, which is, you know, roughly $150. And so that should last me here in the next couple of days, because where I'm going, I don't know if there's any ATM machines or not. So, you know, it's a lesson that I've learned over the years, is carry multiple cards, ATM cards, credit cards. Don't always count on the fact that an ATM is going to work, that they have any money, they may be closed. So it's not like in the United States. Always got to be ahead of the game. When you're coming to an ATM, you have an opportunity to get some money. Sometimes it's best just to get it, even if you don't need it right that second. I am enjoying. Okay, thank you. Ciao.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Nico.
So I had a nice talk with the lady and her son here, and that's what you saw on the phone was her son's wife, who's in San Diego, and she's on her way here. So I sat down and had a nice chat with my broken Spanish, but it was nice. They're very, very friendly here.
Hola.
Hola. ¿Qué es el nombre de este pueblo?
Laureles.
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 I really enjoy Mexico. These little pueblos, they don't ever see somebody speaking English and out here living their life. There's a classical Maya house right there with a thatch roof and rounded walls. And people, hola, hola, buenos dias, buenos dias. And people are just, you know, they're just very friendly. You know, just Mexico gets a bad rap. It is a wonderful place. Alan! Ah, me gusta! Me gusta! I enjoy traveling to Mexico away from tourist areas and resorts. English is rarely spoken in the small cities and pueblos that I explore by motorcycle. Often I will need to ask for directions, get a hotel room, or purchase food using my limited knowledge of Spanish. What lesson did I learn on my travels? I learned that Mexican people are friendly and often very helpful. Many are curious to see an old gringo like myself traveling off the radar on a motorcycle, and I have often used the kindness of strangers to help me on my journey. I use Google Maps for navigation. I download the region of Mexico where I plan to travel so I can use Google Maps offline when I'm not connected through data or Wi-Fi. I find Google Maps to be reliable for directions, distance, and travel time, even in the more remote regions. I do not have a dedicated GPS. My backup is my Garmin Geo Explorer and the EarthMate app on my phone. And I try to have paper maps also as a backup if those maps are available. However, I was relying too much on my phone and Google Maps. When my phone died on my trip to the Yucatán, I had no other suitable map other than a small paper tourist map. With only a small paper map, I got lost a few times before I was able to fix the phone. What lesson did I learn? I learned that I relied too much on a single source, Google Maps, and on my only device, my phone. I needed to have either a second phone or a dedicated GPS in case my phone is broken or lost. I also needed to purchase better paper travel maps with more detailed roads in the areas where I was planning on traveling. So I'm heading out of Campeche this morning, and my phone is completely dead. I can't charge it. It seems to have some issues with water, so I have no navigation at all. I'm kind of just winging it. I know the direction I want to go. I do have an iPad, which I need Wi-Fi for, which is kind of my backup here at this point. If I don't see some sign of where I'm going, I'm going to have to find a hotel with Wi-Fi and get back on it and try to figure out where the heck I am. No, I've got my gear packed on the bike here, ready to go. I don't have a phone that works at all, so I have no map. I'm just going to have to go by my sense of direction and look for signs. Might have to stop and ask along the way because I still have a few hours to go. Hopefully I've got my phone mounted here. I'm hoping the air will dry it out a little bit so I can charge it. So off we go. Well, that's it for tonight. I am back at my hotel here and I'm tired. I found a place that sells phones, so I'm going to see them in the morning so I can get them to fix my phone because I really need it. That's what I use as my GPS, my maps, and my directions. So see if they can get it so it can charge in the morning. Well, I made it to Bacalar. Now I need to find a phone repair shop before I do anything else.
Life here. Saved my life with a charger. I've been without a phone for 2 days because it won't charge with a cable. So this will work. Oh yeah, bueno. On my motorcycle trip to the Yucatán, my phone would not charge using a USB cord. I relied entirely on my phone for navigation. I was traveling in a remote region and I was unsure of my route. After 2 days with no phone, I was able to purchase a charging pad in Bacalar near the Caribbean coast that seemed to fix my problem. However, I could not charge the phone while I was riding as it still would not charge with the USB cable. And to complicate the issue, my phone mount was broken and the phone was loose. I was concerned that my phone would fall off the motorcycle while I was riding. And unfortunately, this is my last day, my last full day of riding. I'm going to take the Himalayan back up to Merida and turn it back into the owner. It's been a very enjoyable trip, very different riding in the Yucatan versus when I was riding to the Sierra Gorda in central Mexico. They're all a different adventure and a little bit of different ride. Really loving it though, really having a good time.
It's recording, okay. Hey, Boo, this is Bruce. I'm crashed the motorcycle on my last few yards and I'm in the hospital at
Clínica de Mérida.
Clínica America.
Merida.
Clínica Merida. I have a broken hand and my foot is injured. Can you come down here? Somehow they need to have another person here with me, and you guys are the only ones I know here.